Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to finally get to be on your show. Yeah, I grew up in Cuba. I left Cuba when I was 28 years old. And my background is musical education. I taught kindergarten for about 3 years. And then I realized that teaching wasn't what I really wanted to do. The music was my passion. So I worked as a musician for about 7 or 8 years until I met my husband and then came to the US. So that's the root of who I am as a how you say, a profession.
Well, now, how did you become involved with President Obama's Cuba trip? I mean, what do you know about that? Why don't you tell us as much as you know about that trip?
Well, that's a long story because I started working as a journalist about 9 years ago. And I immediately signed up to be in the White House press list, so I would receive constant updates of the White House, of whatever was happening, so I can have other stories to tell besides stories about entertainment. And I got the opportunity to cover his visit twice in Nashville when he came to Nashville, and I get invitations all the time for all the different events that the White House hosts. I just didn't feel like I should go because, you know, we had to travel to DC or whatever he is. But this time, I received an email with the invitation to go to Cuba, and I was like, oh my God. And I didn't know what to do, so I emailed a friend of mine, and she said, you gotta do it, you gotta do it, you gotta do it. So she helped me put it all together, and her husband used to be a journalist for CNN, and he's semi-retired, and I asked him, can you go with me? So he went, and the trip was amazing, unforgettable, emotional, extraordinary. I need more words to explain how it felt, because as Cuban, to be able to go to my country with President Obama, it was like out of the world, you know, out of the ordinary. And for my family, I don't even know how they felt, because my mom was just looking at me and not saying anything.
Now, was this your first time back to Cuba since when?
Since 2 years ago. I went 2 years ago, yeah.
How many times have you been back to Cuba since you first left?
Oh my God.
So it's a regular kind of thing with you?
Maybe 4 or 5 times, yeah. Because, you know, my family is still there. My mom, my brothers, my sister, my whole family.
Now, in terms of this invitation that you received, now, how did that work out? I mean, what was the... Give us some information in reference to that.
Well, the thing is that all the media that are on the White House list are invited to come, but you're responsible financially for the trip. They do everything, but at the end of the day, you have to pay for the expenses of the trip. That's how it works.
Now, how did Cuba look to you this time around?
It looked as the same, you know. They just fixed the roads where they knew that President Obama was going to travel through, or they painted the buildings, and the baseball game where it was hosted, the stadium was painted like within a week. And those things are just facade, you know. It's not what the real thing is going on in Cuba. It's more than that.
And so in a real sense, this gave you an opportunity to see your family.
Yes.
And what we want to do during the second segment is to show some images, and I want you to narrate some of the images that you will see and tell us about that, because this is really a wonderful trip for you, was it not?
Yes.
To go back and to find that not only are you with the president, but your family is still there.
Yes, it was amazing.
Very good. And so what we're going to do, we're going to take our first commercial break, and then we'll come back and we'll have the images, and we'll have about 8 minutes for those images. And I want you to narrate for us what we're seeing on the screen, and then after that 8-minute narration, then we'll have our final break, and then we'll come back for 10 minutes and to talk about some of your impressions and some of the things that you saw that you think that our audience ought to know about. And of course, we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. And so this is an 8-minute segment.
Okay.
And what we want to do is to put the images up and to have you to
towards you a little bit.
And to have you to narrate those images. And so we'll do that for 8 minutes, and then we'll come back. We'll take another break, and we'll come back and we'll give you 10 minutes to talk about the trip to Cuba and some of the things that you felt about it and the emotions that you had in reference to. Did you go to the baseball game as well?
Yes.
You went to the
baseball? Yeah, I put a clip in there.
Yeah. Very well. Good. That'll give you an opportunity to talk about, some of the things that this is a first-hand view in terms of President Obama's trip to Cuba. And we think that...
I should have brought the credentials. I forgot.
The what now?
The credentials.
You got the credentials that you used?
I forgot to bring it.
That'll be fine, though.
Yeah.
But I think this will testify that you were there.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, and so this will be our 8-minute segment. Now, we're going to do the images now, is that right?
What?
The images.
They got them there. I'm going to be going there as well.
Oh, okay, very good.
Less than a minute out. That works.
All right.
Oh, got an extra hand. I don't have to do that.
Is it warm outside? It's still warm outside?
It's really beautiful.
It's not
no,
raining.
It's not raining. It's beautiful. Perfect.
No, we've got 8 minutes on this. Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Ms. SPaz, and she's given us some information in reference to the trip that President Obama took to Cuba and her reaction to that trip, since she participated in it in some fashion. And of course, Ms. Paz, we're going in some fashion, to make, because you were involved in quite a number of things, and taking pictures and et cetera. And as a journalist and as a person who in a real sense had an opportunity to go back to Cuba to see your family. And, and I would imagine that was quite an experience for you, to be back into Cuba with the President of the United States.
Yes, it was. It was, because it took a while for us to get to the hotel. First off, we were 45 minutes flying around because the Cuban tower in Havana wouldn't answer the plane to give permission to land. So the pilot finally had to tell us, we have 2 hours of fuel, so we'll get you informed. So this is the moment when the President Obama arrived. So I was there at the airport filming his arrival. Unfortunately, it was raining, so the ceremony was cut short. So he just got down and shook hands with some people, and then they went off. And by the time I got to the hotel, my mom was already waiting for me, so I got to say hello. We talked for about 4 hours, and